All right, here we go. Salute to Knicks Nation on this Wednesday afternoon. Another edition of KFTV Live, man. CP the Fanchise in the building. You know, we're in the dog days of the All-Star break. I think people are going crazy. I mean, the discussions, the discourse around the game has just gotten outright ridiculous. So I said, let's get back to basketball. The Knicks got a big matchup on Thursday. A battle of Eastern Conference supremacy against those Detroit Pistons, man. Those Pistons fans are talking. So we got to get to it with our guy, Kahill, returning to the show. He covers the Pistons for Locked On Pistons and also has his own Substack, man. Make sure you follow him. One of the best in the game, bar none. And salute to everybody in the chat, man. Good to be back on. Let's get into it, and let's talk about it, man. Salute, salute, salute. Like, share, and subscribe. Salute to the Replay Gang and all of our Fanchise channel members. Cool, how you feeling, man? Welcome back, bro.
I'm feeling good, man. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah.
Looks like it's hopefully we'll have hopefully we'll have a good game coming up on Thursday. It seems like this is going to be a rivalry that continues on for a minute.
Yeah.
But hoping for a good game.
You know what? It's interesting because I like it. Like some of the Knicks fans, like, oh, the Pistons fans, are they talking? Because, you know, for over these last, like, since the playoffs, you know, the Pistons fans, they jump in the comments and they're talking when they win. And this year, obviously, it's been a great year so far for them. And Knicks fans are like, oh, these guys are all talking. I like it. I like how this thing has kind of been budding into a rivalry. I like the chippiness. I like the edge that Detroit is playing with. And I like the trash talk by the fans. Hey, you backing it up right now, man.
Yeah, I mean, as long as the rivalry stays just about basketball, I've had a lot of really good interactions with Knicks fans. I think it's been, like you said, I think rivalries are good for basketball. I think trash talk is part of basketball. Like, I've played basketball my whole life. If you're not really willing to talk trash, you probably aren't going to survive out there. So, like, it's part of the game. It's part of what makes it fun to follow this league and follow the team. So I think it's just cool that there's, in a league that a lot of people try to say or have been asking for rivalries, while they've only matched up in one playoff series, the Knicks, in which the Knicks won, it does seem like there's actually a rivalry here, and that's stuff fans like to see.
With this team being number one in the East, I mean, this is new territory. I mean, when was the last time they were? What, the 05 Pistons, that championship team returning?
I think this is the best start since 07, I believe it was.
Yeah. So, I mean, what's that like? I mean, you've been covering the team for quite some time. You've seen them come up from those dark ages. Now the Cade era, they're taking a leap, and now top team in the East, one of the best in the league.
Yeah, I mean, before the year, I did not see this coming. I don't think anyone really saw this coming. I think people who try to tell you that they saw this type of success coming are just lying to you. Their over-under, I believe, was set like 43.5 or something around there. And there was a lot of people that took the over in the Pistons community, but I don't think anyone was expecting them to be pushing for 60, high 50 win totals, to be at the top of the Eastern Conference and have a pretty good lead on the first seed in the Eastern Conference. This has been a great year in every way possible. The Pistons got another first-time All-Star. Last year it was Cade. This year it's Jalen Duren. They've seen development from a lot of their guys. They've found improvements and really good players along the margins, and Dennis Jenkins as well. So, like, they're finding, and Javonte Green as well. Like, they're finding guys on the margins to help them out. They also are getting improvement from their young guys, and the vets have been incredible for them. And JB Bickerstaff's done a great job. So this has been a crazy turnaround, absolutely crazy. 2 years ago, I was being called by European radio shows to talk about how are the Pistons losing 28. How is that even possible? Like that's where we were 2 years ago, and now 2 years later we're talking about top seed in the East and can they get to the NBA Finals. It's a crazy turnaround.
Is there one? You mentioned a number of factors, and one that has stuck out to me because, you know, Cade is Cade, and he's been brilliant for a couple years now. But to me, it's been the development and the leveling up of the rest of the lottery picks. You talk about Jalen Duren being that all-star. I think Ron Holland at a young, 2021 now, taking that leap. Ausar looking incredible defensively. I mean, is there one particular aspect that you can point to that's led to this big turnaround here?
I don't know if there's just one thing. I think Jalen Duren making this huge jump offensively, there's a lot of talk and there's a lot of ask, rightfully so, in the Pistons community, and really for those in the NBA community that watch the Pistons, that they need a secondary scorer. They need a secondary ball handler eventually, whether it's an offseason or whenever it's at. But really, throughout this entire year, it's been Jalen Duren. Jalen Duren has been their secondary shot creator. He's been the guy creating advantages for other people. He's been the one that's been relied upon to score in the half court without being just feasted by Cade Cunningham. Like, he's improved so much as an isolation guy. It's crazy. His dribble drives have been absurdly efficient. Like, I was looking at the other day, he's scoring like 1.18 points per possession per drive, just crazy efficiency. He's been incredible. The touch around the rim, the footwork, he's even showcasing a little bit of a mid-range. So he's really helped their offense, and they're still not a fantastic half-court offense, but they've went from being like a bottom 7 half-court offense last year to they're hovering around like they're around middle of the pack, towards the back end of the middle of the pack. But that slight improvement, even that is enough to really help this team. And I think the other component is they've really bought in on their defense. And instead of getting Ausar Thompson from January on, which is when the Pistons made their turnaround last year because of his recovery from blood clots, they had him from the start of this year. So now their defense that we saw from January last year is the defense we're seeing from the get-go of this year. And they've been the best defense in the NBA since November, better than the OKC Thunder, according to defensive rating. So I think all of those things are playing a part. Ron Holland has been incredible defensively. Cade has been way more consistently a high-level, impactful defender this year, not just a great offensive player, but this is the most effort consistently we've seen him make on the defensive end of the floor, and he's making plays on that end too. So it's a lot of things playing into it. Singling it to one thing, it probably wouldn't be doing it justice, but there's a lot of things going on.
When you look at the trade deadline that just passed, there were a lot of people, like myself included. I was like, man, don't sleep on the Pistons. I don't know if Trajan may make a splash move. People were thinking, is it a marketing type of move to get that, true secondary shot creator next to Cade? But they went out, they traded Ivy, they get Herter in return. What did you think about the trade deadline moves that the Pistons made, kind of on the margins there?
Yeah, I mean, Trajan I think there's a little bit of a disconnect between the front office of the Pistons and the fans of the Pistons. I think the fans are viewing this season, and I shouldn't say all fans, but there's a good section of the fan base that's viewing this year as this is the year where you have the chance, you got to get to the finals, you got to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. This is the year, it's never been so open, blah, blah, all that stuff. And I think Trajan and the front office is viewing it, and he actually was interviewed about this last week and kind of echoed these thoughts that if they make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, great. Like, if that happens, that'd be amazing. But it's not end-all, be-all. They don't view this season as they have to do it this year. They asked him directly, do you think that this team can make the championship, make the Eastern Conference Finals? And he was like, I don't know. We'll see, I guess. We just want to see them play and see how it goes. So I don't think there was this level of urgency or this level of, hey, we got to get it done this year. It's open for us from the front office as there was maybe from a lot of fans. As far as the trade that they made with Ivy for Herter, I had been hearing for a long time that they were basically out on Ivy for a minute, and then he has become basically just an off-ball catch-and-shoot player. And they talked about this at the press conference last week when they traded for Herter, that they viewed Herter as someone that maybe could provide some of that off-ball shooting, but also they can trust him to have the ball in his hands a little bit more, to run some weak-side pick and rolls, to attack a closeout, make the right read, attack the closeout, make a pass, make a passing read, get to the rim, finish. And those were things that JB Bickerstaff and the front office had shown they just didn't have much trust in Ivy to do anymore at this point. So it was more so about just moving on, giving Ivy a fresh start, and that they were kind of done with the experiment, and they just wanted to get potentially someone that could help a little bit off the bench. But they have a lot of depth as it is. They need to clean up the guard room a little bit to give room for Danis Jenkins. So I think it was more so about that, not really, to be honest, so much about improving this year's team that much. It was more so, let's move off of Ivy and give Danis a little bit more of a runway here and to see how these things go.
Well, I've been super impressed with that kid, man. I watched Danis Jenkins out of St. John's. I don't watch too much college basketball. Like, I'll watch St. John's like when they get into the tournament, and I'll watch much of the tournament. But when I saw him, especially starting in that summer league, and him going at Tyler Kolek and the chippiness, and then seeing him this year, he's been incredible, man. He fits right in with this team, and again, with his emergence, it made Ivy even that much more expendable. Danis Jenkins has been great, man. They just converted his two-way into a regular season contract. He's been great for the Pistons, man.
Yeah, and he's been an incredible surprise. This is a guy that had been on a two-way for, I believe, this year, and was a little bit at the end of last year as well, I believe, with the Pistons on a two-way contract. And every time he had played, I remember going on the podcast multiple times last year, and even in the summer league, like you said, just every time you saw him play, all I could say was, I mean, he can just hoop. Like, there wasn't much analysis with it. It was just like every time he plays, he just does something good. It never seems like he's out of position. It doesn't seem like he's doing anything harmful to the team. Like, he just seems like he knows how to play, and he's just a good basketball player. And this year, he took it to another level. He spent all season really training hard, and he's gotten to a point where it wasn't just like a feel-good story. It wasn't just like oh, look at this two-way guy playing well, it is what it is. He has become a legitimate impact player for the Detroit Pistons, to the point, like you said, it made Ivy even more expendable. It's making Karis LeVert even more expendable. They're closing at times with him opposite Cade to give Cade another guy that can handle the ball when Cade's facing full court pressure. Like, he's been fantastic. He's another really dog defender as well. He's really blossomed into a good backup point guard for the Detroit Pistons. It's been incredible. And this is the second time now that Trajan has been able to go back to New Orleans. They found Jose Alvarado on a two-way contract, find someone on the margins. I've wanted the Pistons to do that for a long time, and they finally utilized their two-way contract. Instead of for favors, for agents, whatever, they actually went out and got someone they thought actually could play, develop them, and they did. And now they got a cheap backup point guard that's really impactful.
Well, when we look at this series, once again, we're talking to Kahill, covers the Pistons for Locked On Pistons. You can also follow him on his Substack on the Kahill and at Khalill on Twitter X, previewing this Knicks versus Pistons game. Now, when we go back to the first two games, hey, listen, there's not much I can say from the Knicks standpoint. They got scrubbed out by 30-plus in both games, but one of my keys to both of those games in terms of watching this Pistons defense, the athleticism, the tenacity, it's been, to me, the points off of turnovers, man. The Knicks gave up 33 points off of turnovers in their first matchup, 21 points off of those turnovers in the second, and that, to me, just speaks to that Detroit defense, because as you said, their half-court offense, it's improved, but to me, if you're gonna be susceptible to those turnovers, you're gonna have a long day when you're going up against those guys. Talk to me about what you see in that defense that makes them so impenetrable and outright, nasty right now.
No, for sure. I think it's fair to say that the Pistons half-court offense is not very good. It's just that's not where they make their hay. But what they do is they turn you over, they get stops, and they run. They run nonstop. They have a bunch of legs that they can use. They go 10 deep at times, 11 deep at times. They have guys like Paul Reed, Javonte Green that maybe don't get consistent minutes all the time, but when they do play, they come in and are impactful. So they trust that they can play for as hard as possible throughout the entirety of a game, and that's where they make their hay. I think it starts with Ausar Thompson at the point of attack. I mean, there's games where there's been a lot of discussion in the Pistons community about, okay, should Ausar just be guarding the best player on the other team, or should he just be at the point of attack? And what the Pistons have decided to do is they've put him at the point of attack, whether the best player actually is the point guard or the guy running the show, so he can harass them 48 feet. He can harass them from half court on, maybe get them a little bit later into the shot clock and run some of their sets, harass them, maybe not get a deflection. He cuts the head of the snake off. And then after that, you got Cade buying in more defensively. You got Isaiah Stewart, who's been a defensive player of the month this year, along with Ausar. I think one of the main things the Pistons is they're not just a good defense. They rely on – a lot of people talk about playmakers offensively. They are playmakers defensively. They don't just get stops. They get deflections. They're getting blocks. They're getting steals. They're forcing plays that are creating open looks and easy looks for their offense. It's easy. It's not easy. Let me not say that. You can just get stops and then try to play in early transition. That helps them as well. But they're not just that type of defense. They turn you over. They get blocks that ignite the crowd and get them easy layups in transition. Like their defense is what makes plays for the team, and it's coming from Ron Holland, who comes off the bench. I mean, you deal with Ausar Thompson for the first 8 minutes of the game, and then he subbed out for Ron Holland, who is just as a nightmare for teams. So it's just 48 minutes of one of those guys on the floor. Duren's a lot more impactful as a rim protector this year. And when he comes out, you got Isaiah Stewart coming in, who we all know is an enforcer and an incredible rim protector. They've completely bought in on defense. And while they may not have the best half-court offense, the guys that they do play, they're all great. Javonte Green, a good defender. Danish Jenkins, a good defender. Karis LeVert has rubbed a lot of Pistons fans the wrong way, but what he can do, he has length and he gets active in the passing lanes. Like everywhere across the team, you're seeing defensive playmakers for the Pistons. That's what they rely on. They want to turn you over. They want to run. And I think that is going to be the Knicks are actually one of the best teams in the league when it comes to not turning the ball over. They rank fourth in the NBA. Right. So it's like a strength on strength matchup. And I think it speaks to just how crazy this Pistons defense is. I think after this season ends, I think there'll be more talk from the NBA community about how good was this defense actually. Like this isn't a defense that's just good for right now. Like they are head and shoulders better since November, better than every other team in the league. Like the distance between them and the second place team was the same between the second place team and the ninth place team. Like they are playing defense at levels that I didn't think was possible. So I always find it an interesting matchup because, like I said, it's strength on strength. Knicks usually don't turn the ball over. The Pistons want to turn you over. Which strength is going to win out? And so far, the Pistons have been able to turn the Knicks over.
Big time. And you're right. They do take care of the ball typically, but when they do see those upper echelon defenses, the pressure defenses, that's when things kind of get a little bit dicey for them. And that's where their lack of effective ball handling outside of Brunson kind of gets exposed. And so that's why when I look at this matchup, I look at this series, I look at a guy like even like a Mikal Bridges, where I got to see Brown running some more actions to get Bridges that ball as a secondary playmaker, getting him downhill and getting him into those mid-range shots, because getting inside, when you talk about Duren and Stewart, that's going to be tough. You got a Star and Holland patrolling that perimeter, and so it's going to force the Knicks to make a lot of those tough shots because the Pistons really don't give you anything easy.
Yeah, I think I've seen a lot of Knicks fans talk about how, like I saw some earlier today or yesterday about who carries more of the, I think it was Iman Shumpert on ESPN.
I was going to play that. I'm going to play that clip, but yeah, go ahead.
No, if you want to play the clip, you can go ahead. I'll comment afterwards.
Well, I don't have it loaded yet, so just go ahead with your thought. Yeah.
So he said that, he feels like Brunson carries more of a load than Cade, and there's been a lot of talk back and forth between Pistons and Knicks fans about who carries more of a load. I'm not going to sit here and argue about who actually does, but I will just comment on the fact that Brunson does carry a lot offensively for the Knicks. They have more talent offensively than the Pistons. That's 100% true. They have better scorers. They have better shooters, all that. But they don't have a lot of advantage creators. They don't have a lot of primary ball handlers. A lot of the scoring is relied upon Jalen Brunson. It's relied upon him creating everything. He's creating the advantages. He's creating everything every time down the floor. Whereas, yeah, Mikal Bridges is a better shooter and he has more scoring chops. OG Anunoby, same thing. Cat obviously is capable of going off. Pistons don't really have guys like that. So I guess that would be the argument for, Cade carries more. But to act like that Jalen Brunson, like you said, if you put all the attention on Jalen Brunson and get the ball out of his hands, who else is getting downhill and then making a read? Who else is getting downhill, forcing the defense to collapse, and then getting the defense in tough positions? It's really only Brunson that, at least from my point of view, that the Knicks really have. So I do think that's a little bit of a weakness and a concern for the Knicks. I think, again, from an outsider's perspective, I feel like a lot of people probably expected Cat to be something like that, to where he's not, running point guard or anything, but he's someone that you could give the ball to that's creating advantage within the half court. Doesn't need an advantage created for him, that he's able to go and attack, get his own bucket, and if a double team comes, he's able to find somebody. Like, I'm sure that's probably what they were expecting out of Cat. But so far, it just seems like that everything is on Brunson's shoulders within the half court offense for this team. And like you said, yeah, and when you're Brunson and you have to deal with Ausar for 8 minutes, and then he comes out, you got to deal with Ron now for the next minutes, and you're getting harassed the whole length of the court the entire game, it gets draining. And you're just like, dude, like I can't do this. Like, can someone help out? I need to get off the ball for a minute. Can someone else bring the ball up? So I do think that's something the Knicks need to figure out.
This is the Shumpert soundbite here. This is Iman Shumpert, courtesy of First Take. This was earlier this week, I believe, on Monday, in breaking down the Knicks versus Pistons matchup. Here we go.
Talking about playoff basketball, I'm looking at matchups. I see the Knicks being one of the only teams that become a hurdle for the Pistons. I know that the Pistons are playing well. I'm encouraged by it. I've seen Cade Cunningham develop. I've seen him grow. But when I see the Detroit Pistons matching up with the New York Knicks at the end of games, I'm trying to figure out, how do you deal with Jalen Brunson, and can you go back and forth making better decisions than he can in the fourth quarter. We've watched Jalen Brunson have to deal with way more of a load than Cade Cunningham has had to deal with. And, you know, they won these regular season matchups because they were kind of pissed off about what happened last year. So it's like I expected them to come out here and deliver a blow. I expect the game to change a lot when we get to these playoffs, and I expect the deciding factor to be, can Cade Cunningham take care of the ball, because we saw last year he struggled with talking about.
All right, that was our guy, Iman Shumpert. Look, I do think Brunson does take on more of the, you know, the responsibilities here based on the Knicks personnel. With Cat, yes, you have to deal with his gravity as a three-point shooter. When he's on, he's on. And based off of that, if the Knicks can find those cutters, and against an aggressive defense like the Pistons, those opportunities may be available, but I want to see the Knicks kind of running that offense through Cat. A lot of the times, they may still pound the ball through Brunson, and so that's on Brown to devise those schemes to get Cap a little bit more off ball, run those actions through Towns in that high post, and make him more effective, because if you're going to dump it down to Towns in that low post, his worst ability, or his biggest weakness rather, is passing out of those double teams. That's his biggest weakness. It's going in the third row. So that's kind of the problem with the Knicks, is kind of finding that secondary playmaker. But that's why, for me, with the Knicks, they also have to rely on their defense in terms of, one, winning the rebounding battle against the Pistons, which they haven't been able to do yet, using Towns, using Mitchell Robinson, using Josh Hart, but also being one of those opportunistic defenses, utilizing all of their wing depth now to turn the Pistons over and turn that into instant offense. When the Knicks are able to do that, they become a much more dangerous team than when you're just searching for offense through Jalen Brunson's hands in the half court.
Yeah, I think what Iman actually brought up now, I saw a lot of it aggregated, so I didn't actually hear the clip until just now. So
yeah.
When I saw it aggregated, I honestly, my first takeaway was, that's a what are we talking about? Yeah. But listening to the clip, I think he actually brings up a good point at the end there, that avoiding the whole who has more responsibility on their plate, Jalen Brunson is at this point a better half-court scorer than Cade Cunningham. He's one of the best half-court scorers in the league. But the whole positive to Cade is that he's a half-court scorer, but he also is able to be like an engine. He creates everything. He's able to find easy shots for everyone on the team. He's able to dissect defenses, and he's been fantastic at that this year. But like Iman brought up, last year he turned the ball over a ton. And if that's going to be your strength, if that's what's going to give you that edge over at Jalen Brunson, if you turn the ball over, you're going to lose, because you're probably not going – I think Cade will have a better chance of just dueling him as a scorer this year. I think Cade's improved immensely as a scorer. Yeah. But at the end of the day, Cade's big advantage over all these other guys is I'm a scorer and I'm also an engine offensive when it comes to playmaking and finding open guys. So if he can take care of the ball, I think that swings things in the Pistons' favor. Like you mentioned, the Knicks need to try to turn the Pistons over within the half court. The problem is, and this is a buzzword, or these buzzwords that you're hearing a lot in the NBA this year. The Pistons are playing the possession battle. I've talked with people around the Pistons. They've mentioned it numerous times. I think even JB Bickerstaff has talked about it a little bit after games at times. The Pistons, the way they view their game plan going into every game, and it's played out this way for the majority of the year. And if you look at Cade's, I've talked about it all year. If you look at Cade's scoring turnover percentage, it's way down from where it's ever been. He was turning the ball over a ton throughout his career in scoring situations. Now it's way down. He's taking better care of the ball. And the Pistons' game plan has been all year that we're going to zig while everybody else is zagging. We're not going to be this explosive half-court offense, but what we are going to do, we're going to take better care of the ball. We're not going to give easy possessions to someone else, because we're going to get offensive rebounds. We're going to win more. We're going to have 10-plus more possessions than the other team. If we miss in the half-court, Duren and Ausar are great offensive rebounds. We'll probably put back our own misses. And then on defense, we're going to turn them over and take away possessions from them. And now at the end of the game, you're looking back saying, they didn't do great in the half-court offense. They were probably missing their first shot. They didn't have the most efficient half-court offense. How did they win? Oh, they had 15 more possessions. They had 10 more offensive rebounds than you. They turned you over 10 times, and you just straight up lost the possession battle. And that's been the case for the Pistons all year. When I've said this before over and over, when the Pistons' three-point shot is hitting, they probably will blow you out. I mean, that happened in the 100%. Second game against the Knicks.
Yeah.
If they were hitting three-point shots, they'll just blow you out because their defense is so great. That's probably not going to happen a lot. So when their offense isn't clicking like that, they'll probably still just beat you by 5 to 7 points, whatever, because they're keeping the game not slowed down, but they're taking care of the ball.
Yeah.
They turn you over. They get offensive rebounds. and they don't allow you to win the possession battle against them. So maybe you hit 5-7 more threes than them, but they're getting 20 more points in the paint than you. They're getting 20 more points in fast breaks. They're getting 15 points off turnovers. Like, that's where they're winning in the margins almost every single game, and that's mostly due to defense and effort and IQ of Cade Cunningham every game.
Yeah, when I see that, that's why I'm like, they don't necessarily have to be the best or a top 3-point shooting team, because they, as you said, they're able to win that possession battle through the margins, and that's what makes them so dangerous. Through your experience in watching this team this year, who's been the best team to slow Cade down? You're not going to stop him, but who's done the best on Cade defensively? What did you see there?
A team slowing him down. I can't think of any particular team. I can think of a coverage that's given him problems at times this year, but I don't know if I can think of a particular team that's given him problems. I think Cade's having a fantastic year. I think he's improved on so many of his weaknesses that's hard for teams to really come out and I think really make him struggle too immensely. Houston's done a good job against him. Their last matchup against Houston, they did a great job of putting their big on Ausar Thompson and kind of forcing a lot of pressure on Cade within the half court. So, I mean, that's a recent game that I thought Houston had a really good game plan against him, if you want to go recently. Overall, to kind of take the easy way out of this question, I'll say, like, as far as a team, I don't know, but a coverage that he faces that at times throughout this year has given the Pistons problems is at the beginning of the year, teams were trapping him a ton. And the Pistons, I believe it was like top 5 in points per possession when teams trapped Cade. They were dominating it. So teams flat out just stopped. They just stopped trapping Cade because they were like, okay, Duren's making us pay on the 4 and 3 in the short roll. He's scoring at the rim every time. If he's not, he's passing it to Ausar in the baseline. He's dunking it. Or we're kicking out for Duncan Robinson 3. Like, they're making the right decision every time. They're not turning the ball over. We got to stop trapping. And I think that actually has led to that led to a lot of teams just playing traditional drop against Cade. And Cade's a really good mid-range shooter, so he was kind of feasting as a scorer at that point. Recently, I'd say over the last few weeks, you're starting to see teams sprinkle in that trap a little more again. They're starting to blitz again. And it feels like the team kind of, at times it feels like they lost their way. And it felt like coming into the year, they were like, we know this is what we're going to see. We're going to get trapped a ton. They spent all offseason working on that kind of thing. And they were ready to attack it early on. They were killing it. But once teams moved away from it, it feels like they've kind of, let it go, slip out their mind, like how to attack it. So recently, especially over the last month or so, teams have been sprinkling, trapping Cade and blitzing him. He's starting to turn the ball over a little bit as of late. The Pistons are turning the ball over a little bit more as of late. They've had good matchups when they've taken care of it. Like Charlotte, they did a good job of taking care of it when they tried trapping. But that's the area where I've seen the most, if you want to give Cade and the Pistons problems within the half court, it's been when you sprinkle in different coverages throughout a game. You give him the same coverage throughout the game, he usually just picks you apart. He'll just be comfortable, and it is what it is. When you're playing drop and then all of a sudden you start sprinkling traps and blitzes out of nowhere, he sometimes is late to recognize it, and you can get a tip on the ball. You can maybe get out in transition. So that would be my answer to the question.
CB the Fanchise here, Crew Kahill representing Locked On Pistons and the Crew Kahill Substack previewing the Knicks versus Pistons matchup at Madison Square Garden on Thursday. Salute to everybody in the chat once again. Hit the like button, hit the share button, and subscribe to the channel. Obviously, this is a Knicks fan channel, but I see some Pistons fans in the chat, so throw your team in the chat. Go ahead, man. Throw your team in the chat. Let us know who you're representing and throw some predictions in there in regards to Thursday's matchup. Now, yeah, the defensive matchup against Cade to me is fascinating, especially from a Knicks standpoint. We just got the word, shout out to my guy Ian Begley, that I think OG Anunoby is expected to play in this one. He's been battling the toenail involution or whatever the case may be. So, but the thing for me is that, we always, obviously he's the Knicks' best defender, the best wing defender. But my challenge is that you put him on Cade. Cade has been so smart in terms of drawing fouls. I don't want to see OG on him on the onset, because you pick up those 2 quick ones, or you even pick up your first one, it takes all your aggressiveness away. So I'm going to be curious to see how the Knicks handle that. Do they go back to a Mikal Bridges? Do they try Josh Hart? I mean, as you say, Cade has been so good at knocking down the mid-range shot. He's super physical. He's very strong. And like I said, I'm very concerned that if they throw OG on there, whether it's now or in the playoffs, he can pick up those 2 quick fouls, and now you got to go to the bench early.
Yeah, I think Mikal, from a Pistons perspective, I think Mikal would be a terrible matchup for you guys. I think Cade has really done well against Mikal for years, going back to when he was in Brooklyn. I think Mikal is just not strong enough to deal with Cade's driving and his ability to just knock him off his spot. He gives Mikal a lot of problems. OG has, I think, if I had to think off the top of my head, guys who have given Cade maybe the most problems over the last few years, OG is probably close to the top of the list, especially in the playoffs. Last year, OG was incredible on Cade, getting around screens, staying attached. He was incredible with it. But like you mentioned, Cade went to the offseason. I know this. I've talked with people close to Cade. I've talked with people around the team. Cade went to the offseason knowing, very self-aware, looking at this tape and like, OG was able to get the better of me in these situations. What do I need to improve on? What is it how was he able to take advantage of me like this? And he's really worked on a lot of that. Like you mentioned, he got a lot stronger. If you looked at Cade now compared to 2 years ago, he's so much more built than he was. He's worked a lot on his strength and conditioning, so I think that's really helped. Secondly, he's gotten way more craftier at dealing with physical defenders and drawing fouls, like you mentioned. He's drawing a career high, I believe 7.1 free throws a game. He's at like a 37% free throw rate. He's been incredible. For years, we've asked, can Cade get a good foul, a good whistle? Can he please get some free throws? Please, please, please. And it felt like it never would happen. And now it's happening. He's drawing free throws, and I completely agree with you. I think his ability to draw fouls and sell calls now, he's a lot of people didn't want him to do this. They call him the ethical hooper, the face of ball, don't stop hooping. But, I mean, it is what it is. He started to learn a little bit about let's scream a little bit when I get hit. Let's jump backwards. Like let's rip my arms through it. And when guys are reaching, like he's learned a lot of that stuff. So now when he's playing against hyper-physical defenders like OG Anunoby, he's done a much better job of making them not want to be aggressive because he does pick up a quick foul on them early. And now they have to play back a little bit. And now they're at his mercy. So I know I try to be as objective as possible, but really when talking about Cade, it's hard for me to really point out a weakness with him. He's
playing at MVP level, man. Playing at MVP level.
He is. Last year, there was a lot of weaknesses in the game still. He was great. He was an all-star. He was fantastic, but there was a lot of things he still needed to improve upon. This year, he's improved on so many of his weaknesses. I tried telling people the box score numbers may not look like that he's having a much better season than last year, but I promise you he is. He's more efficient. He's taking better care of the ball. He's finding better shots. He's dissecting defenses better. He's been impactful defensively. So I think if I'm the Knicks, I am putting OG on him and kind of just trusting OG to do his thing. Like I mentioned earlier, despite me thinking that Cade has improved to a point he isn't bothered very often. Again, if I had to think of defenders that I've seen give Cade the most problems, OG is probably at the top of the list. So I probably wouldn't rock with Mikal, but like you said, maybe you don't want OG in foul trouble. So it is an interesting thing to handle.
Big time, and I think the moves that the Knicks have made and the guys that are playing right now is to address guys like a Cade Cunningham, guys like a Jalen Brown. You're seeing more playing time for Mohamed Diawara, the second-round pick this past season. He's been playing very well as the minutes and the games have gone on. And then they go out there and get Jeremy Sohan, low risk pickup, 22 years old, known to be a pesky defender. Now, again, not going to shut down Cade. Do they throw him out there on Cade? I think they could in a series or a potential game should the other wings get into foul trouble or you want to give them a little bit of a spell, because if you're going out there against the Pistons, man, you got to be ready for a track meet, especially the way that they get going in transition.
Yeah, that's where they like to live. They want to live in transition. That's another thing that Cade's really improved upon. Last year, he turned the ball over way too much in transition. That was one of the weaknesses of the team. And this year, his turnover percentage in transition has shot way down, which has led to them, again, like I mentioned earlier, just winning those possession battles. And instead of, those fast break early transition looks ending sometimes in turnovers, now they're just ending in layups most of the time. And it's really making it hard to stop them.
Yeah, big time, man. What did you make of the brawls? Who's going to be missing in this game? Is Duren and Stewart going to be missing in this game? Who's going to be out for this one?
Yep, Duren and Stu both will be out this game. Duren will be back the game after this one. Stu's going to be out for 5 more games.
Okay, so you could envision Paul Reed getting a start there. Yep. I like that battle with him and Mitchell Robinson, man. I thought he got in Mitch's head a little bit too much in that last game, carrying over from the playoffs. But look, Paul Reed has been playing much better since his Philly days. He seems to be locked into his role there. I want to see Mitch get a little bit more disciplined out there and get back to his game, because Mitch has been trending on the up and ups, man. Between the blocks, the offensive rebounds. This should be one where the Knicks front court should be able to win their matchups here, especially with Stewart and Duren out.
Yeah, I think if I'm the Knicks, they absolutely should be one of the game plans. If I'm the Knicks, I'm looking at this game. They should crush the Pistons, or at least try to crush the Pistons on the offensive glass.
Sports.
On the season, the Pistons aren't actually that great of a defensive rebounding team. Now, they're a tremendous offensive rebounding team. Absolutely tremendous. But defensive rebounding team, they're actually not that great. They're 16th right now in defensive rebound percentage. And we're now entering into a game without Isaiah Stewart and Jalen Duren. So you're going to be seeing minutes of Paul Reed. I floated out on the podcast the other day. We might see Tobias Harris at the 5 in minutes where the Knicks don't play Cat and Mitchell Robinson together. Just put Tobias on Cat in those minutes. So the Pistons are going to be much smaller. The Pistons do have good positional rebounding. Cade's a good rebounder for his position. Ausar is a really good rebounder for his position. But even still, they're not the greatest defensive rebounding team. A lot of that impact comes on the offensive end on the glass. So especially with the Knicks, if they want to play the Mitch and Cat lineup, if they play just Mitch on the floor, he's an incredible offensive rebounder. So I think that should be one area. If I'm Mike Brown and I'm walking into this game, they don't got Duren, they don't got Stu. This should be a Mitch game. This should be a game where he gets you guys 5-6 extra offensive possessions because the Pistons will be playing Paul Reed and maybe Tolu Smith, who is a G League guy. I think we might see small ball minutes for the Pistons more often than Tolu. But if you do, again, that's a G League guy. So I think that's somewhere the Knicks can clearly look at in this game and say, we should have the advantage here. This should be where we take advantage.
And then obviously the matchup is going to be, how do you get Ausar, an absolute pit bull right now, off of Jalen Brunson? Is it more stagger screens? I don't know what they're going to do, man, because to me, he looks like he's leveled up again defensively, because in that last game, he had Brunson. I've never seen Brunson on the run that much, taking the most off-balance difficult shots. I mean, the two best shots he had was coming out of into the second half. Those are the two scores. I don't think he even scored in that first half. So I'm going to be very curious to see how the Knicks get Brunson going and get Ausar off of him, and Ron Holland on top of that. They're two best wing defenders.
Yeah, I think that's something that teams have tried to figure out all year with Ausar, is that the main objective needs to be to try to get him off of your main guy. If you can get him off of your main guy, now you have a better advantage. A lot of times teams, their best solution has been to call up Duncan Robinson's a defender and run guard-on-guard screens, try to slip out of it, flare off the screen, and force Ausar to go with the flare. And sometimes it works. Ausar's a great screen navigator. I think he's the best screen navigator in the league. So he's able to get around a lot of those. But you're really, even when you do stuff like that, I don't know if they would want to put, like, I don't know, Shamit or I doubt that Duncan would be guarding like McHale or something. But whoever it is, it's not even so much when they run those actions to get Ausar off of him. Even if you don't get Ausar off of the primary ball handler, you are putting the defense in a little bit of a recovery state. Because now Duncan's having to, am I showing and going? Am I showing and switching? Now you got a shooter flaring out. Can you get an open shot for the guy that's flaring because Duncan was undecided? That is the weak part of the Pistons defense. So I definitely think that. Also, I think the Knicks could probably, I don't know if they've done this a lot this year. I've seen a lot of complaining from Knicks fans about this. So it seems like they don't. But if I was a coach, I'd probably try to move Brunson off the ball, have someone else bring the ball up and try to run him off some pin downs, try to run him off some screens to where you're not trying to make him be Rip Hamilton or anything where he's taking mid-rangers, but like come off a pin down, try to force a switch on a screen. Force Ausar to have to run through screens to where now Brunson gets the ball at the top of the key or at the wing. Now he doesn't have Ausar on him. Or if he does, maybe Asar's trailing now. He gets him at a disadvantage. Like those kind of things, if I'm going against the Pistons, that's what I'd be trying to do. The problem is, and again, I'm not trying to sound like a Glazer here. I mean, it is what it is. The problem is that teams have run into is that I think B-Ball Index had this. Ausar is the 100th percentile, 99th percentile screen navigator. So teams struggle at actually getting Ausar off of them. But when teams have had success, it's been go at Duncan Robinson's man. Even if we don't get the switch, we're forcing Duncan to have to pick and choose, and he can make a mistake, and we can get an open three out of it. So if I'm the Knicks, that's what I'm trying to do.
Something to watch for sure. No, the Knicks do run actions, and especially starting games in terms of sometimes they'll have Mikal Bridges bring the ball up. They'll have Josh Hart's at times, and then, they may start running through Karl Anthony Towns in that high post. So they do, I wouldn't say sparingly, but at times they'll be running Brunson off of the ball. And I think they may, just as a way to kind of switch things up and give the Pistons a different look. Or they may choose to hold those cards, reserve those cards until the playoffs should these two teams meet. But to me, that's got to be one of their primary objectives. And as you said, certainly not an easy task. One of the things that I found interesting when I look at the three-point frequency in terms of the Pistons and what they give up. Similar marks between last year and this year. They gave 38.9% in terms of frequency last year, 39 this year. However, a huge difference in terms of accuracy. Last year, they were 24th in the league in terms of opponent three-point percentage at 37%. This year, they're second. What do you think about that, man? What's been the biggest difference there?
I think losing Malik Beasley has really hurt. Not being able to hit, Malik was, I think he hit like close to like 353 last
No,
year.
I'm talking about them defensively in terms of what they're giving up.
So what was the number again?
So I said last year in terms of their frequency, it was about the same in terms of the 3-point percent in terms of the amount of threes that they give up. They were 17th last year, they're 21st this year in terms of threes given up. But I'm saying the accuracy is way better in terms of their 3-point defense. Last year they were 24th, giving up 37% from three. This year they're second.
Yep, I got you. I think the main thing is like I mentioned earlier, JB has talked about this a lot. Like I was mentioning earlier about Ausar, whether he's on the point of attack or on the best team's player on the other end, they have decided as a team that we're going to put Ausar on the point of attack guys because we don't want any dribble penetration to really be allowed. Like, for example, a game I often go back to really paint this is when they go against the Boston Celtics. Jalen Brown has killed them. He has scored, I think he's averaging like 36 or something against them this year. But Payne Pritchard isn't really doing much. And they're not getting up as many threes as you like. And why is that? Because they put Ausar on Payne Pritchard. They cut off the dribble penetration. The reason why that's important is because the way you create open threes is dribble penetration. You force driving kicks. You force help defense. Now you get the defense in rotation. You can create open threes. Last year, they didn't really operate like this. This year, they are operating with, if the best team's player, if it's a wing, whatever, if it's not the guard, if it's a wing, maybe they should have changed this against Kawhi when Kawhi dropped, I think, 55 on him. Maybe they should have changed this. Yeah. But they have Ausar in the point of attack. They say, we're going to shut off all the driving kicks. We're going to allow Ausar to just really play one-on-one. We'll trust him. He's not going to give up the dribble penetration. If he does, he's quick enough to recover. We don't need to send help. We're not helping. We're not leaving shooters open. If they get an easy look at the rim, then they do. Again, the Pistons have Duren as a much better rim protector, and Isaiah Stewart probably one of the best rim protectors in the league. So when guys even do get beat, they have a big at the rim that's been much better at protecting the rim. So their whole standard or their whole stance has been, we're not helping off threes this year. We're trusting our perimeter defenders to stay in front. And if they do get beat, especially Ausar Thompson, he can recover and still make a play on the ball to where it's a tough shot to make for the opposing team. So I think that's 100%. And JB's talked about this a few times, really over the last month. He's been asked a lot about it. And he's talked about how they want to shut off the three. They want to shut off dribble penetration. Don't allow dribble kickouts or driving kicks for the opposing team. And if their superstar player, if their all-star player is able to beat them 1-on-5, and I think Jalen Brown actually was able to do it once. He actually did pull him down once. But I think the Pistons won that series 3-1 so far. So that's what they're thinking. And if the best player is Brunson, it happens to be Brunson the guard, Ausar will be on him anyways. But again, in a matchup like that against a wing or whatever, if that guy wants to go off, so be it. We're not giving up threes. That's been their standard all year.
Yeah, Knicks are close to shooting 40 per game. Last two matchups against the Pistons held a little bit under, 33 in the last one and 30 in their first matchup. So going to be curious to see how that plays out in Thursday's matchup. As we look at the East standings, salute to everybody in the chat once again. CP the Fanchise and Kahill. We in here talking basketball, man. None of this nonsense. Oh my God, these guys are first take up and going delirious. So much babbling across the basketball field after the All-Star. We had to get back to business, man. Knicks and Pistons tipping off to get back on the second half of the season, so to speak. And taking a look at the standings, man. Pistons have a commanding lead here. 40-13, 5.5 games ahead of the Celtics, 6 ahead of the Knicks. Well, I haven't looked at the strength of schedule. How does the strength of schedule look for the Pistons as it relates to the rest of the season? Where are they at right now? I haven't checked Tankathon.
I honestly, I'm not going to lie, I haven't checked it either. We could probably pull it up real quick.
Let's take a look here.
I know the back end of this month, they actually do have a tough schedule. They play a lot of really good teams.
Have they done most of their West Coast? I know they completed one and they did very well recently. Is the West Coast trip done?
They've had 2 West Coast trips. I don't think they're going to have another one. I could be wrong, but I know that they've had 2 where they were able, like you said, I think one of them they went 3-2 and another one they went 3-1. So I don't think they have another one, but they might. I'm not sure.
So both teams, Pistons are 7th right now in terms of strength of schedule. 7th toughest schedule, 29 games left. Knicks are 27th. So Pistons still have the 2 games against OKC, so do the Knicks. Pistons have to play the Spurs twice, 1 against the Knicks, 2 against the Cavs, 1 against the Lakers, 2 more against the Wolves. That's what Tankathon's considering their toughest ones. And then, they have their bottom feeders. For the Knicks, 1 more against the Pistons. They got 2 more against the Thunder, 1 more against the Spurs at home at the Garden, 1 more against the Celtics. That's April 9th. That could decide who gets the 2 and 3 seed. And then they still have to go out west and face off against the Nuggets in Denver, 2 more against the Rockets. Rockets will be here on Saturday, and then they'll go out to H-Town next month as well. So 7th and 11th, respectively, in terms of the strength of schedule on the Tankathon, man.
Yeah, I think the Pistons, they haven't had to play the best teams in the Western Conference yet. They played Denver. They beat Denver twice. They played Houston and split with them, but they haven't had, like you mentioned, they haven't had to play OKC yet. I think they play OKC actually twice in the next 2 weeks, next 2 to 3 weeks. They play the Spurs soon as well. So that's going to be some really interesting games to see how the Pistons perform against them. The rest of the teams, I saw a stat that against the top 4 teams in both conference, outside of obviously the Spurs and OKC, the Pistons are 7-1. So they've handled themselves well against those teams. They also have a really good record against teams above 500, last I checked. So but despite that, they haven't won against Oklahoma City, who is obviously going to be like the championship favorites. They haven't won against, they had to deal with the alien that is Victor Wembanyama. So it definitely is something I've been looking forward to seeing. How do they play when they start going against, again, OKC, San Antonio? How do they look against Minnesota? That's a really nice game. I know they got Lakers coming up, but I don't think anybody in the East should really be worried about the Lakers as long as you can move around more than the old Lakers. But yeah, I think definitely the Knicks could catch some ground up. They have an easier schedule. They are 6 games behind right now. I expect the Knicks to catch Boston at the very least the second. I think it's going to be Pistons 1, Knicks 2. That's my prediction. But with the Knicks having a much easier schedule, Knicks fans definitely could feel like that the Knicks could catch the Pistons, especially with them having to play the teams that we mentioned coming up.
Yeah, and with the suspensions coming up, I thought, especially that loss against the Pacers, those are just games you can't afford. It's one thing to lose to a team like the Pistons or a better team like the Rockets, but against the Pacers, to lose to the Pacers at home in the way that they did, the Pistons have some injuries. Now you're playing them on Thursday. That could have been prime time ability to catch up. They did recover and beat Philly on the second night of a back-to-back, but I thought that Pacer game was kind of wasted opportunity. Sometimes it could come down to those 1 or 2 games where you're like, damn, they had no business losing this one. So going to be an interesting race to the top, man. Definitely going to be an interesting one.
I think the Knicks and Celtics fans are going to be watching the Pistons a lot over the next 2 weeks because, like you mentioned, Stu is out for the next 5 games, and this is where they're going to have some of their toughest games of the season. Now, Duren will be back after this one, so at least you get him back. But if you look at the schedule the next week or so, next 2 weeks, you got you got New York coming up, obviously, on Thursday. Then you got San Antonio on the 23rd, OKC on the 25th, Cleveland on the 27th. Orlando got some tough news today with Franz, so maybe that next one isn't going to be too tough. But then again, you got Cleveland again. Then you got San Antonio. And so up until March 5th, you really got a pretty deep competition here for the Pistons. And you're not going to have Stu back until at least the second matchup against Cleveland, where you have already played Cleveland once, OKC, San Antonio, and New York. So if I'm fans of another team that's trying to catch the Pistons in the East, I'm watching to see, are they going to lose some games here, and can we make up some ground while these guys are suspended?
Yeah, for sure. How does a Pistons fan see the whole Stu situation? Is it like, this guy reminds us of the bad boy days? Obviously, he wants to take on that persona, but then you're losing him for a couple of games, but you are in first place. How does a Pistons fan see Stu and, him being the enforcer of this team, the captain and enforcer of this team?
Yeah, so I just talked about this on my podcast last night, that it's definitely a line that you have to be careful, and you don't want to cross the line too much. I think the overall sentiment was, at least, let me give my opinion on the whole Charlotte thing. I think Stu deserved 6 games. I think I'm not sitting here. There's some fans that maybe think he shouldn't have been suspended as long. I was honestly shocked they maybe didn't even go larger with the suspension. I was a little bit concerned. I mean, when you come off the bench, not only do you come off the bench, but then you come off the bench ready to square up. The league's going to frown upon that. I completely get that. I think outside of that incident, though, I honestly think that Stu and the Pistons in general, JB's talked about this a lot this week, He was on, I think, Richard Jefferson's podcast, and he talked about this. The Pistons feel like, now I know some fans outside Detroit will maybe disagree, but the Pistons feel like they don't start anything. It's just if you start with them, they won't back down. Like they'll engage. Like if you want to start with them, okay, now we're ready to throw fisticuffs. But they're not coming into games ready to throw hands. They're not trying to do any of that. That's what their stance is. I think Stu has done a much better job this year of knowing when to pick and choose his battles. Like the game before, or like a week before this matchup against Charlotte, that all this stuff went down. Jonas Valanciunas was playing Stu, and it felt like throughout the entire game he was trying to bait Stu into something. He put Stu in a headlock at one point and pushed him, and Stu kind of just is what it is, walked away from it, and they were able to beat the Nuggets in that game and take advantage, and Stu kind of kept his composure. I think there's been a ton of examples this year where they've been able to keep their emotions and kind of just, and know when they need to take it easy. I think Charlotte was more of an isolated incident. There was a lot of stuff going on, and Miles Bridges trying to sneak shot Jalen Duren, I think, set off everything. I think once he tries walking around everybody and then sneak shot Duren, that's really what set it off. Probably don't want Stu to come off the bench. Like if you have to be, I compare it to, I don't know if you've seen like The Incredibles, but like one of the opening scenes of The Incredibles when Bob's in the office and he's talking to his boss. And he's like, are you trying to tell me I shouldn't be trying to do what's best for the customer? And he's like, I'm supposed to say no.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm supposed to, professionally, I'm supposed to be, as a responsible adult, say, probably shouldn't leave the bench. Did I care that he left the bench? I'm not going to lie, I didn't really care.
Yeah.
But I think it definitely will be something that teams try to bait them into the rest of the year. I think that's a smart thing to try to do. I think they've shown at numerous occasions that they know when to not do things and when to rile some things up. I'm not worried about really Duren or anybody. It really is just Stu. But I think Stu's shown more maturity when those situations have arrived this year to where Pistons fans should be feeling comfortable with it. But it's still nonetheless going to be something that teams definitely try to bait them into.
Yeah, well, listen, as a Knicks fan, I respect it. Well, first off, Stu being of Jamaican heritage, I rock with that. But, for the Knicks, we've been looking for that for a couple of years now with this team, bringing some locker room toughness and enforcer. And it looks like we got one in the diminutive Grand Theft Alvarado. You know what I'm saying? He gets it. He goes up against Trendon Watford in the Philly game. But, you're not looking for guys to throw hands per se, but just it brings an edge, a competitive edge. And that's what I saw that's been missing when the Knicks is going up against the Pistons in those last two games. It's like, all right, look, a guy like that is not going to, be the ultimate difference maker, but at least bring that competitive edge, because that's what I see from this Pistons roster, top to bottom. It starts with Cade and then goes all the way down. Everybody has that dog mentality, and that's what I like in terms of what a guy like Jose Alvarado's kind of brought to that team. Like, bring that energy, bring that edge, bring that attitude. He's a New Yorker. He knows what it means to rep that jersey. So I like his addition to that locker room, man.
Yeah, honestly, I've liked some of the moves that the Knicks have done. I think it's very clear what they're trying to do and what the purpose of these signings are. My outsider's point of view, when I've talked about the Knicks after these matchups with the Pistons, my outsider's point of view is that the Knicks don't want to play a physical game. They don't want to. They will not win they're not going to out physical you. That's not how they're going to win these games, especially against a team like the Pistons. I feel like the Knicks kind of identified that, again, from the outsider's point of view. Maybe I'm wrong, but it feels like the Knicks kind of identified that. They go out and get Jose Alvarado, like you said, who's a dog and plays chippy and plays physical. They go out and get Jeremy Shohan, who, again, is a very physical, long, lengthy defender who gets physical and is chippy. Like, it felt like that the Knicks they realized that, and they went out and tried to get guys that can bring some of that chippiness to the locker room, bring some of that chippiness to the court, and I like it. I think that's instead of trying to swing for Giannis or anything, I think that's probably the smart move to go. It's just, we have a lot of talent on this roster. We know we have a lot of talent. Can we unlock it? And can we add some of this chippy, attitude? Can we add some more physicality to where, it kind of maybe bring some other players on the team, maybe Cat, sees it and starts like, let's be a little bit more physical. Let's bring a little bit more chippiness to this, whatever. So I think the Knicks did right, and I think they identified it correctly and made the right moves. Some marginal moves. They're not stars or anything, but I like the purpose and the idea behind it. I think it was smart.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%, man. So with that being said, man, good talk. We'll see what happens in Thursday's matchup. And obviously, we got to have you back, man. This is definitely a good breakdown of this game. Let the people know where they can find you, man.
Yeah, you can find me over on Twitter at Kahill. You can find Locked On Pistons on YouTube at Locked On Pistons. You can find it whatever podcast platform you listen to, whatever podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever. If you also want to check out more Pistons content, you can find Locked On Pistons on Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff. We got content coming for you guys everywhere. I'm looking forward to the matchup. I think I think the Knicks should be favored going into this game for sure.
I would
100%.
think so.
Yeah. I think the Knicks should be able to try to take advantage of this game. I expect them to really punish the Pistons, hypothetically, on the offensive glass for sure. They don't have much to deal with Mitchell Robinson. I think this could be some get back for the Knicks, especially because last game, Knicks were without some of their guys. So now the Pistons without some of their guys. I think the Knicks should be able to take advantage and try to even this thing up. And I'm interested to see how this season goes the rest of the year. Are we waiting to the Eastern Conference Finals to match up again, or are we looking at like a second round matchup again? Hopefully it's the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, hope so. Hard to see how a team comes out of the All-Star break. You know, guys coming back from Cancun, they coming back from vacation. They still have that edge, that momentum that they have when you kind of pick up when you get a couple games under your belt. But you know, with the Pistons guys being out, Knicks at home getting washed those last two games. If they don't get up for this, I don't know what they're gonna get up for, honestly, as it relates to this season. So they better come with their competitive edge, because to me, no matter who the Pistons have out there, they're going to be ready. And so the Knicks better be ready. And my keys are going to be the same, man. Take care of the ball and dominate the boards. If they do that, they should be able to take this game. And, you know, my guy Bart Scott, ESPN Radio, man, he's been talking tough. He's been getting chippy with me, man. So, you know, we're going to have a wager on this one. So I got to make sure my guys come out with the W, man, because my guy Bart Scott's starting to talk. He's starting to talk a little too much out here, man.
We'll see. Knicks need to slow the game down. If I'm the Knicks, you need to slow the game down, keep it slow in the half court. You'll win a half court game against the Pistons. You don't want it to be a running marathon. You don't want that to happen. So keep it in the half court. Should have a chance. Don't
want it to be a track meet. Cool, great job, man. We'll chop it up, man. Great stuff today, man.
Absolutely, man. Catch you guys later.
Yes, sir. All right, salute to everybody in the chat once again. Shout out to our guy, Kahill, man, for tapping in with us. Great conversation, great breakdown on this game, this matchup. A battle of Eastern Conference supremacy, man. You know, the Pistons fans, they in the chat right now, they talking, they get naggy. I like that, man. You know, let's get a real rivalry going. You know, the NBA, they promote this, like, rivalry week where they just, like, throw two teams together and be like, these guys seem like they hate each other, but, you know, it's not really a real rivalry. They'll try to put the division history, you know, out there, like Knicks versus Sixers, Knicks Celtics, or they try to throw like Rockets versus Spurs. But, you know, you need real rivalries on the court. And I see this brewing into that, or budding into that. So, hey, let's see, man. But like I said, if the Knicks don't get up for this one, man, you know, I can't keep defending these guys. I can't keep defending these guys if they don't, you know, get to it and get ready to scrap. Because the Pistons, that's what they do, man. They go out there and scrap. So salute to everybody in the chat. Salute to our loyal Fanchise channel members for being in here. Mellow Mike, I see you in here. Salute Rich for MVP. Will Latimer, son from Brooklyn. Salute to you. Rare Edition, Timothy Dancer. We got a lot of our regulars in the building. I see the Rhyme Animal Chuck D in here as well. Never misses a show. Salute, man. Super Morty, man. I see you in the chat. He says, yo, KnicksFanTV host, salute to you. Absolutely, man. So, you know, the Knicks better not stink up the joint, man. But speaking of which, shout out to our guys at Mando, man, for sponsoring today's show. Head over to shopmando.com. Use our code KFTV for 15% off your order plus free shipping, man. Shop Mando. One of the best things, natural ingredients, aluminum free, paraben free, so you don't got to worry about some of those, you know, secret science projects that these other deodorant companies are throwing out there at you, man. You can best believe that Mando uses high quality ingredients in their products. And on top of that, it's whole body deodorant. So you don't just got to use it on the underarms. If you want to use it on your body or some of those trouble spots on your body, you're able to do that as well. That is why I've been rocking with Mando, and they've been sponsoring our show for a number of years now. They've been a great partner for KFTV. And as I said, no baking soda, doctor developed, and you have it in different different structures in terms of, you got the solid deodorant, solid stick, you have your spray, you have your cream. So whatever you need, whatever you're into, Mando has got you covered. So once again, shout out to our guys at Mando for sponsoring today's show. And it's not 15% off. I made a mistake. It's 20% off. All right. So go ahead, get 20% off plus free shipping. Use our code KFTV to support the show. and check them out, man. Number of different scents that you guys can try out. Clover Woods, Cedar Grove. You got the sports scent. So whatever you need, man, go to shopmando.com and tap in. Salute to the Facebook family, man. Salute to everybody on the Facebook side of the house for tapping in with us today. Benjamin Britt, salute. Salute to Beans. Tahotep, salute to you. Shout out to Jason Wesley. Says Knicks have the ammo. It has to be coached and demand pressure on both sides. Consistency is the key. Jason Wesley, we see you in here in the chat. Who else we got in here, man? Salute. William Wesley in the chat. Okay. Is that Worldwide West? Salute Mo Drives. Says Brunson, 24 points. Okay. Shout out to you, man. Let's go. Yeah, had to get back to some basketball talk, man. Tommy Beer had a comment there on Twitter. It was like, yo, what is going on right now? You could tell when you're in the dog days of the All-Star break because you just have to power scroll through a ton of nonsense. Obviously, Stephen A. cannibalizing all of it with the first take, worst takes. You know, you got, Carton talking all this nonsense. I mean, I said, I got to go live and just talk to the people. We got to preview this game and get back to some sort of normalcy. So I'm looking forward to Thursday's matchup. We'll be back live tomorrow. Obviously, Captain Clutch, Jalen Brunson came into the news, his interview with Vanity Fair. We'll break that down. I want to separate that into different shows so we're not just going into like 2-hour shows and things of that nature. So we'll talk about the Brunson stuff. MSG came into the news. Looks like they're going to split the Knicks and the Rangers up into 2 separate entities. So I'm trying to get my guy Caleb Silver on here. We'll talk a little Knicks business tomorrow as well. And we'll talk some more about this matchup between the Knicks and the Pistons. All right? Let's see who else we got on here. So I have my guy Eric L. Beats. Eric L. Beats in the building. KFTV Watch Party will be back on Saturday when the Knicks take on the Houston Rockets. So Saturday, 7 o'clock p.m., Clinton Hall 36, whole family show. CP the Fanchise in the building. MC Cedro, DJ Eric L. Beats, live game audio as usual, plus DJ Eric L. Beats on the ones and twos during commercials. Giveaways, we'll have tops. Basketball cards to ripping packs with our guys at Latino Sports. Always a good time to be had at the watch party, man. Free to get in, free with RSVP. Once we put the link out and formally throw it out there on KnicksFanTV.com, you guys can get ahead and RSVP. But shout out to everybody who taps in with us. And you can also go to KnicksFanTV.com, get your merch, your New York versus the World merch. You want your Knick, always your Knick merch. We'll have that all for you. Fast and free shipping. You guys know the deal. Okay? Great show, man. Great to be back. And I got to get some lunch and get back to it. All right? Make sure you guys tap in with my guy, Kahill. Like, share, and subscribe. Number one show for the fans by the fans. All right, people? We'll see you guys tomorrow. Same time, same place. Knicks Fan TV, baby. Salute.